It's an amazing thing to be fascinated for a living, you know? I get to dig into the soils of the things that have made my life colourful and discuss them with myself. And that problem solving can help the world in some way.
Besides the piano, I understand you play the electric bass, the floor bass, the drums, the guitar, and I think a couple of other exotic instruments. Is that all?
That's not true.
That's not true.
No, I do tend to explore different instruments in terms of sound. I grew up in a family filled with musicians and music, and it was kind of the same time as I was learning to speak, I suppose, that I was starting to play. Yeah. And so I would find anything that made a sound and play with it, which is kind of what music is all about. It's like a language, I suppose. And sometimes that was, like a double bass, something very formal, or sometimes it was just a floor. But, you know, things make sound.
Right.
And children make ideas when there are ears to hear them. And I had a mother who was absolutely receptive and sort of inspiring in terms of things that made sound and things that communicated meaning. So it was a matter of, that's enough for me, I'm going to go for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was awesome. So you didn't need any technology there. But ever since your first YouTube video, you've been sort of pioneering very complex arrangements and use technology a lot. How does that influence your creative process?
Well, I suppose when I was growing up, which is still now, as it is for all of us, I suppose, I'm only 12. I got my hands on a computer, and there's a piece of software called Cubase. Cubase, does anyone know about Cubase? Yeah. Oh, excellent. So Cubase, what it does is enables you to layer things on top of one another, so sounds. And so you'd lay down a floor, and then a saucepan, and then a voice, and then maybe a guitar if you could find one. And I began to imagine the music I was creating as I was listening to it. So I'd listen to a Stevie Wonder record, and I'd hear all these different sounds, and they'd all smell like Stevie Wonder and sound like Stevie Wonder and feel like Stevie Wonder. I later discovered that it was him playing all the instruments, but for me, I just wanted to make music that felt like that. And so what the computer enabled me to do was extend my limbs and be all of those different voices in the music. And so I suppose, that's how I got into that whole thing. But for me, it became very, very quickly apparent that when you enter down the road of creating music with computers, it can just rob you of your humanity in a whisker. So I think it's a matter of maintaining the thing that's important for a human being to do and letting the computer do its job. Because computers are great at being computers, but they're not very good at being humans, specifically with regard to music. Yeah. And so for me, I think of it more as limb extension rather than kind of operations manager, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally. So you won 2 Grammys in 2017. Vanity Fair dubbed him perhaps the greatest musician of the 21st century. Pretty tall order. And you've performed and recorded with artists, ranging, it's an incredible range. Hans Zimmer, Herbie Hancock, Pharrell, goes on and on. So what are you working on now, and who are you working with?
Good question. So I suppose just to put things in context, I made an album called In My Room, which I recorded in my actual room, which is in North London, by the way. You should come and visit. And this room is just filled with music, and I wanted to make an album that represented my learning process, which was quite a personal one and often quite solitary. And so I recorded all of the instruments on the album. I released the album, and it was a rather amazing thing because I didn't compromise anything. I just did exactly what I wanted to do in my own time when I was ready to do it. And I got it perfect, or as perfect as I imagined it to be, which includes imperfection. So I was off the hook. And so once that was released, the whole Grammy thing was a real surprise because in my mind, Grammys were things that, adults won and things that like people who were really, really high up on the ladders of the industry won. But actually, I feel like the times are changing and that a Grammy is just a way of recognizing somebody and to be recognized for this thing that I was doing in my own room was just wonderful. It was a real treat. Yeah. And after that album, I've been venturing into these other areas. I'm actually currently making 4 albums in one go. I can't really help myself. This quadruple album is called Jesse, D-J-E-S-S-E, and each of the 4 is like a different universe of sound, of genre, of collaborator. And so you mentioned collaborators. There's about 30 collaborators across the whole project, from rock guitar legends to full-on gospel choirs to orchestras to folk singers, fiddlers, rappers, trappers, jazzers, all sorts of things, everything you can kind of imagine, or everything I can most certainly imagine. And the internet is an incredible stage. It's amazing, and it's a way of of connecting with people in a profound way. And so I'm halfway through. The first 2 volumes have been released. The second 2 are still being completed. And it's an amazing thing to be fascinated for a living, you know? And I feel like a lot of you guys understand that as a concept, but I get to dig into the soils of the things that have made my life colorful and discuss them with myself. And that problem solving can help the world in some way. And that's just a really profound feeling that as a musician, it's possible to be honest. And that's kind of, in some ways, the end of your job. Because if you're honest and other people can see that you're honest and can see themselves in what you're doing, then it's so liberating for people to see. And in a world of bright packaging and kind of selling, it can be like cold water, like the best kind of cold water, when something pops in an honest way.
Yeah.
And now online, there are no rules and regulations. You can kind of be yourself from the word go. And that, to me, is a real thrill. So I guess that's kind of, I'm looking towards that horizon and sort of seeing where I'll end up.
That's fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, Jacob, we will share his YouTube channel, but amazing speaker today.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Cheers, guys. Have a wonderful day. Thanks.
Yeah.